Christmas goodies. So, dobré ráno pekaři, good morning bakers, and welcome. Vítáme vás. Thank you for washing your hands for the millionth time this year, pulling up your sleeves, pulling your hair back, donning your aprons, and joining us this morning. My name is Linda Jaňorová. I'm the Vice President of Sokol San Francisco, and I'll be serving as today's moderator. Enough about me. I am thrilled to have so many of you from all over the world joining us this year. As you know, there will be 3 bakers teaching us how to bake Masaryk's cookies, a vánočka, and giving us tips for how to decorate gingerbread. Today's session will be taught in a mix of English and Czech. If at any point you have trouble following along, just let us know. A couple of housekeeping tips. Most important thing is this session will be recorded. We're going to start that recording now. Jana, who has the Sokol SF sign up as her name, she is the host, and so her screen will be recorded. So the bakers and whoever's talking will primarily be recorded. The chat will be deleted. When we get to our Q&A, when you do get a chance to talk, we're going to delete that part as well. But if at any point during the session you decide to pipe up, know that you are agreeing and giving us your permission to record you. Just have to say that. Other things would be that please keep yourself muted during the session. If you have questions throughout, ask them via chat. If we don't get to them during the session, there'll be a Q&A at the end, and we're happy to connect with you at the very end and afterwards as well. Jano, do you want to give a few of the tech pointers that you had?
Yes, thank you. A suggestion that you may want to have is to have your Zoom view in speaker view. Everybody has their own view of this experience. You are in control of what you see. What you see is not what the other person sees, but if you have it in speaker view, the person who's audible, who is talking, will be in the big window, and hopefully our bakers will be the top 4 or 5 windows because they'll be the ones who are speaking the most. You can also, if you want, pin the speaker onto your Zoom, and the controls for that are in the top right-hand corner of your Zoom window. Everyone looks great. If you can hear me, everybody wave, say hello and wave. We'd love to know that you're here. Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. If you find that your video is lagging, turn off your video. That'll help you with the connectivity. And off we go, Linda.
Thank you, Jano. And if you have technical difficulties along the way, please let us know. You probably aren't alone. So we want to fix those right as they happen. Let's jump right in. Let me introduce today's bakers. Milena, could you please wave to us? She's our vánočka baker. Where are you joining us from today?
From Danville, California.
Excellent. And then we have Petra. She is our gingerbread decorating guru. Where are you joining us from today?
Good morning, from Danville, California.
Excellent. And then last but certainly not least, Jano, where are you and where are you joining us from?
Good morning, and I'm from Redwood City.
Fantastic. Let's jump right in. Milena, you are going to be teaching us how to make vánočka, a braided Christmas bread, also an Easter bread. I understand that because the yeast dough needs time to rest and rise, you're going to have several batches to show us each step of the way of the process, and that our bakers are not going to have a completed vánočka at the end. Is that right?
That's correct. I will demonstrate every step of the way. But unfortunately, due to the time constraints you mentioned, we cannot finish the whole thing at once. You cannot follow the whole thing at once, but you will see the entire process, and I will be available. If you have any questions later on, I can give you my phone number or my email. And if you have any problems, I will be glad to help you.
Fantastic. Please take it away.
All right. So we're going to start making a starter. I got everything ready here. I pre-measured, you know, it's a good habit to get into to pre-measure all your ingredients because then it's easy to put together. So I have, the recipe calls for 4.5 cups of flour. So I have 1 cup here, which is gonna be for the starter, and then 3.5 here later for the dough. So we'll take the flour, we will put the yeast, all the yeast we have. We will put all the sugar, which is 1/2 cup sugar in there, and milk. I've had the milk standing on the counter for last 1.5 hours, so it is ready to be used. If you are pouring straight from the refrigerator, you want to warm it up in the microwave, maybe 15 seconds, because the yeast does not like too hot. It doesn't like too cold. So just right. So we're gonna pour the milk over. And my favorite tool to stir with is regular butter knife, because you can get all the way to the edges of your container. And you just mix it. So it's gonna be, the texture and thickness is about like a pancake batter. So it's not really too liquidy or too stiff. So it's all mixed up. So now I'm gonna cover it with a plate. And we're gonna let it sit for about 20 to 30 minutes. It depends how warm your kitchen is. So I already have a starter ready, which had been sitting here for the last half an hour. And you can see that it started bubbling. I don't know if you, can you see that it has bubbles and all over the surface? So then we know it is ready.
Yes, we can. Is there such a thing as letting it sit too long?
I guess so, because then the yeast would be spent, but I would not, like, if it sits for an hour, I don't think it would kill it. The yeast is a live culture, and it eats the flour and it eats the sugar. So you want it still pretty lively. So we have it pretty lively in here.
And Milano, there's a clarifying question. How much flour was put into the starter?
1 cup, and it is specified in the recipe that, the whole recipe calls for 4.5 cups of flour. 1 cup goes into the starter, and 3.5 I will use now for the dough.
Perfect. And I've got my recipe and I'm following along, taking notes. It might be good if participants want to do the same.
Perfect. Okay, so I will start with the flour. I prefer a mixer because it does all the work for you. If you do not have a mixer, then you need to buff up, and my grandpa used to do that. My grandma would mix the dough, and then my grandpa would sit and he would mix the dough with a wooden spoon for 100 times. I am lazy. I use my electric mixer and I love it. Okay, so now we have the flour in the mixing bowl. I warmed up the milk as specified in the recipe with the butter. And I did it pretty much when I mixed the first starter, the one I'm going to be using for here. So the milk has time to cool down. And another thing which is going to cool it down is I'm going to put those 2 eggs in there. And because the eggs are cooler, they will cool the milk and butter mixture too. And again, use my favorite knife. And just break the yolks. You don't have to mix it too much. Just break the yolks so we get kind of uniform temperature in the cup. And we're going to pour it over the flour. So this is the milk, butter, and eggs mixture. And here is our starter, which is flour, sugar.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Did
Whoa,
we
whoa,
lose
whoa,
me?
I just pressed something wrong here. Hold
Oh.
on a second. Hold on a second.
Did we lose me?
Stop
video.
No, it
No?
looks fine. It looks fine, Taz. We're recording and we're seeing Milena just fine.
Okay, excellent. This
Okay.
one is the starter, which was flour, milk, yeast, and sugar.
Oh, shit.
I'm gonna,
Shit.
you're being heard.
Oops, sorry. Are you still on there?
Yes, we can hear you. We can't see you.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that swearing.
Okay, perfect.
Here we
So-
go.
We're gonna,
We all understand. It's all right.
after all, right? We're gonna add 1 teaspoon of vanilla and some lemon zest, about 1 teaspoon as well, or a heaping one. It depends if you like it or not. Now you have 2 options. You know, my kids, or you know, when they were little, they preferred their vánočka, nahata, naked, without any nuts, any raisins, or anything. So I stopped doing it, and while I stopped putting it in there, I noticed that it's much easier to roll your pieces because the dough does not break. You could mix your raisins and your walnuts or almonds in there right now, but what happens then when you roll the dough, it will tear the dough. So it's easier. I will still show you how you can put them in there without making it difficult to break. So now we have everything in the mixer, and we're gonna start mixing. It's gonna be very floury. So before I start making the noise, sometimes the flour starts jumping out of your mixer. The way to cure it is you stop, wait 10 seconds, and then start over again. And that way you don't make mess all over. So I'm gonna start mixing, and I'm gonna hand it over to Jana so she can start showing you the Masaryk cookies. And during, I will come back later to show you how the dough should look in the mixer. So Jana, you go.
So I will present you Masaryk cookies. You know that Tomáš Garrigue Masaryk was our first Czechoslovakian president. His wife, Charlotte Garrigue, was an American, and maybe that's why he likes these Christmas cookies, because it reminds him of American cookies. Who knows? Maybe it is just as a story. It is well known about Masaryk that he was a very modest man, and we can also say that he ate modestly as he lived. Therefore, baking these cookies is also very simple. So we can start.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jana.
So I have all ingredients here. And how do you know? We soak the hazelnuts before this presentation. So I will, in the first step is that we have to dry hazelnuts. So we will dry them.
And Jana, you just soak them in water, and for how long? Jana, we can't hear you.
Minimum is 2 hours. So you can see I wash them again, and I will put them to the clothes, and we will dry them. We will let them dry. Okay. So right now I will take flour. sugar, and nuts. It's better to mix everything together when it is dry. Okay. This is the old way how the Czech people do the dough. I know that American people use kitchen mixer, kitchen food processor, but this is the old way how the Czech people are doing it. So
We
right
have a lot of people following along with you, which is wonderful. And you're just using a knife to mix it all together, Jano?
yes, I do. It is the easiest way, yeah. And right now we will add butter. I put the butter out of the refrigerator 2 hours ago, so it is a little bit soft. But if you have the hard butter, you can not shred it. You can
Melt it or warm it or
I forgot this one. You will use this one.
braid it, yeah. Jako nastrouhat?
Yes, you can edit it, and it is easy. And it will help us to make nice dough. So do you see it is already melted? So, but it will help you if your butter is hard.
That's a great tip. I never knew that one.
Okay. So right now we can make the dough. It will take maybe 2 or 3 minutes. So I will start. I want to tell you something about Charlotte Masaryk, Tomáš Garrick Masaryk's wife. She was very smart woman, and she support Garrick Masaryk all her life. And what is really good for us as a women, she wanted the same rights for women and men. So in the first Czech declaration from 1920, it's the same right for the women and men. Sorry, I'm so nervous. So sometimes you can see that the dough doesn't go together, but we have to wait and we have to be patient, and we can try to put this together. Sometimes when the people are not so patient, they use water, but if you need, you can use 1 tablespoon of warm water.
It's a great tip. I'm sometimes not patient, but I agree that sometimes I think that the temperature of your body, as it warms up the dough, that helps. Time helps. And then, of course, water is a great tip. What about milk? Can you use milk if you have too dry dough?
You can, but I would say that the warm water is better. But you can use milk too. So maybe you can. I will use hot water. But if you follow me, so don't be in a hurry. Just try it. But do you see? I will use one spoon of warm water. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, can do this.
Yeah, no, are the Masaryk cookies only for, like, are they Christmas cookies? Or were they made and eaten all year?
No, in our family, it was just Christmas cookies. And it was my grandmother's favorite cookies. She was from farm, from small village. And how, you know, each farm has a hazelnut tree and walnut tree. So they use a lot of nuts. It's healthy. And it was not big deal for them to use nuts. So what I want to say that this Christmas cookie was cheap for them. Because you use just flour, sugar, and nuts. You see, it's look better right now. So we are almost done with the dough. Okay. So you see, it's good right now, and it was fast. Okay. So right now, we will make 4 pieces.
And Yano, there was a question. When you added the nuts, that was the almond meal, right? That was the
Yes, almond meal. Yeah. But you can use walnut, shredded nuts too. So I have 4 pieces, how you see. And right now when my hand works with the white dough, I will show you how we will storage or what we will do with the dough. You see, right now I'm in a hurry, so the dough still is not good. So if I will have more time, I will work with the dough more and more longer. And right now.
Yeah, no, you say the dough is not good yet. What do you mean? Is it too wet still or too?
No, too dry.
Too dry, okay.
Too dry. So maybe I will use 1 more teaspoon of the water, okay? Maybe less than 1 spoon.
And how do you tell? How can we tell what level of moisture, how wet or how dry do we ideally want it?
Yeah. It has to be soft, and do you see I still can see some crack? And it's better when right now it's too sorry my friends. It's right now it's too bad, but it doesn't matter. I will continue, okay? Be patient. What I wanted to say, don't be in a hurry, enjoy the time, Christmas time, and try to make the dough as soft as possible.
And a question is asked, can we add more butter? If it's too dry, can you add butter instead of the water?
No, I don't know. I would not recommend it because when you have there a lot of butter, when you bake these cookies, the cookies will be melted. You will lose the shape of the cookies. If the dough is too buttery, so usually the cookies doesn't have nice shape. Okay, so right now we will continue.
So someone is asking, should it have any cracks?
Yeah.
Yes or?
Yes.
It should?
It shouldn't. It shouldn't.
Okay, should not have any cracks. We're going for perfectly smooth, not too dry, not too wet dough.
No. Okay, so we will make this roll. I will use plastic wrap. Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. We will put this together and I forgot the hazelnuts. Sorry. We have to use hazelnuts. Do you see?
And yeah, those are whole hazelnuts that you're putting in, is that right?
Yes, it's right. So sometimes it's better to use food processor, but right now in this step you cannot use food processor because it will be, the nuts will be damaged. Maybe you think that there is a lot of nuts, but don't be worried, don't be afraid.
And just one, somebody's asking a clarifying question. The nuts are soaked, but not wet because you've dried them. Is that right?
Yes, I dried them.
And again, they are whole and not in any way cut or processed.
Oh,
They're
they are.
People are complimenting how well you are kneading the dough. It's a good technique, and I think it's teaching me that I need to knead my dough for longer.
Thank you so much.
Somebody's also asking, Jana, why do we soak the hazelnuts?
Because we want to cut them, and if they are dry, it is very difficult to cut them, and you will lose the shape of the cookies. They are more softer. So right now, okay. So right now it's correct, finally. So, okay, what I wanted to show you, you will put this in the plastic wrap, but we like the cookie with the cacao. So I will use 1 spoon of special dark cacao, and we will have 2 kinds of cookies on the plate. It looks good because you have white cookies and black cookies. If I can say, chocolate cookies. So.
Yeah, someone's also asking, does it matter if the nuts are raw or roasted?
I use raw. I think raw, when you can use raw, it is better. Use that.
Another baker is asking, they said that they didn't soak their nuts beforehand. Mm-hmm. So soaking them now, can she put the dough into the wrap and put it in the refrigerator and then add the nuts later?
Absolutely, it's a great idea. Absolutely, they can. And what I because I'm in a hurry, so I don't want to spend a lot of time with these cookies. So I would recommend it. Wrap these white pieces because my hand are dirty right now. So if I will touch it, I will make them dirty. So I will continue, and you can work with the gingerbread, but I will show you, we will wrap it. And work on the shape here. Right now I will put, you see, it's about, I don't know, 4 inches long. And I will put this in the refrigerator and we will use this later, okay? So I will continue. You can watch me, but you can continue with the gingerbread.
Wonderful. We're actually going to go to Milena next, but Jano, one question I have.
Okay.
One question. You are deliberately making these long rolls and putting it in the refrigerator as a long kind of snake shape, right? That's
Yes.
on purpose. Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll see why later, but I wanted to point that out. So that shape is deliberate. Thank you, Jano. Let's move on to Milena.
Be quick. The dough is mixed. I just wanted to show you how the dough looks now. It totally clears the sides of the mixer. It is nice and soft. It pulls away without really sticking to my hands much. And, it took about 15 minutes of mixing. So be patient. Do not be tempted to add any more water, or because if you want the dough kind of stiff, because if it was too loose, your vánočka would not hold together the shape because it would be too soft. It would not support the upper layers. So this is nicely smooth and kind of satiny, very soft. So I'm gonna take it out of my mixing bowl. You could let it rise in the mixing bowl, but I'm gonna put it in here because I need the mixing bowl for the next round. So I'm gonna put it in there. You can spray it or put a little bit, just put oil on your hands and cover it with oil so it would not dry the surface. And my favorite way to cover it is your trusted shower cap, and you cover it up because you can reuse it. Dollar stores has them, and you can reuse it over and over and over. And now it's ready to rise, and we can go to gingerbread.
Milena, how long will it be rising for?
Depends how warm your kitchen is. I would say about 2 hours. After 1 hour, you want to turn the dough over and then let it rise again.
Thank you very much. Petro, gingerbread, take it away.
Yeah, but before I will, Milena, last time you had a really great idea, a great tip that I already used, and it's when your kitchen is cold, which definitely happens in the wintertime, to put it in the microwave with the teacup or something like that, with the hot water.
Yeah. Usually when the house is not warm enough, I make a pot of tea, stick everything into the microwave because the microwave is a wonderful insulator. So it's going to be nice and moist and warm, and it works really well with yeast doughs. That goes for your knedlíky, that goes for your regular bread, anything you're making with yeast. If you have problems with your house being too cold, just put it in the microwave. Don't turn the microwave on. Just put some.
Make a cup of tea.
Make a cup of tea, or put the pot of tea in there with your dough in the microwave. Thank you for reminding me.
Okay, so I am on. Good morning, everybody. Dobrý ráno pro všechny, kdo jsou tady nebo z zahraničí, nebo přes oceán. Já už mám perníčky udělaný. I already made my gingerbread cookies because it just take too long. And I am sure everybody has their favorite recipe. So any gingerbread cookie will do. Jakýkoliv recept bude fungovat. Takže já vám ukážu, jak se dělá ta poleva a jakou techniku já používám. So I'm going to show you how I'm making the frosting, and then I'm going to show you really a simple kind of method that I'm using to decorate my gingerbread. So what I have here is 3 things. I have egg white. Usually what I do is I put it through the sifter, takže tady mám jeden bílek. A někdy si to dávám přes sítko, abych tam neměla žádný hrudky. I'm really fortunate in the US, the powder sugar is really powdery, so I don't have to sift it. Tady nemusíme to prosívat, ten moučkový cukr, ale v Čechách vždycky, nebo i když jsem bydlela v Holandsku, tak to jsem musela, protože tam ten moučkový cukr vždycky v sobě měl nějaké hrudky. So, what we will have, so we have an egg white, we have powdered sugar, we have a lemon, and just something to mix it with. So what I do is you start with adding the sugar into the egg white, and it will take quite an amount of sugar to put because the paste really cannot be runny at all. So you will start doing this. You only add 1 spoon at a time and you mix it. You can also use, můžete taky používat mixer, takový ten hnětač, takový ten ruční, ale já potom, tak jako Milena s moukou, já potom mám cukr pro celý kuchyni, což teda nevadí dětem, ale uklízet potom, to je teda katastrofa. So, I usually do it with the hand. I mix it with the hand, but you can also do the hand mixer. But as I just said in Czech, it's absolute disaster. I have a sugar all over the kitchen, which my kids don't mind because they come and lick the surfaces. Very, very good in the coronavirus times. But cleaning up the kitchen afterwards, it's just absolute disaster. So you just keep adding 1 spoon at a time. You see, this is definitely not the consistency you want. So you see, it's so 1 big spoon at a time. Just keep adding.
Somebody was asking how much powdered sugar you start with. It just seems like you're just kind of going until you see that it's the right consistency.
Exactly. So you just keep, and as it's starting to look like something now. Then what I will do is I will add a few drops. So when you see it's already starting to kind of form a paste, so that it's not really running. So what you do is you use the lemon juice and you add it a few drops at a time. And that lemon juice is, don't overdo it with it, but that lemon juice gives it a little bit good, like sour taste, but also makes the paste much whiter, which I really like on the cookies. So here we go. You see the paste is really, really thick. So I will add a few more, not too much. There we go.
Petra, one of our participants says that when she makes icing, and then it dries on the cookies, it peels off. Do you have thoughts about how to prevent that?
No, I don't have that problem. What can happen, not with this paste, but what I always do is after I do the gingerbread cookies, you can see they have a little bit of a glaze on it because I brush them with egg and with milk. So I mix up milk and egg, and it really makes a little bit of a glaze. And I think it also helps for the paste, for the decorating paste to stick to it. So I don't have that issue. You can see. I already have those. It sticks really well. Okay, so I think we are pretty good here. Takže ta konzistence musí být taková, aby to opravdu drželo. What you can do is I always take one as a testing, one gingerbread cookie, and I put a little bit on the surface just to see that it doesn't, and if you see that it is not really kind of dissolving and it really holds the shape, that's why it's also important that you use the egg white, because that will help the paste to hold the form. So when you see it's holding the form, so we are good to go. And over the years, I use so many of those piping things with the little things that you can buy somewhere, and then they always got stuck, whatever. So the best thing ever is just simple sandwich bag. Pytlíky, sandwichový, úplně nejlepší. The important thing is that they don't have a false, so this has to have, I don't know if you see, oh, you can see it. It should not have a false in the corners, because the corner is the one that you will be using for decoration. Yeah. So what you do is there's a simple Ziploc bag with my, so Vezmu si lžičku, take the spoon and fill the bag with my paste. I don't put the whole thing there at the one time. The reason for that is because if you really want to be precise in the piping and in decoration, it's difficult if you have a handful of the paste. Já nikdy do toho pytlíku nedávám celou tady tuhletu pastu, protože potom se mi s tím špatně kreslí, že jo? Potom ta ruka, ona drží hrozně moc ty pasty a nemůžu to dělat tak přesně, jak bych si představovala, nebo jak bych chtěla. Takže mám tam asi takhle, bych to držela jako tušku skoro. Tady si to zamotám. Normálně nůžtičky, manikurový. A teďka, and now it's a moment of an issue because I'm starting to need glasses, I see. So really getting just a little bit at the end, just to get a little bit of a piping out. So, and you can make it bigger depending how thin or thick you want it to be. So this one is really, really, really thin, as you can see here. What you do, I use the technique that is just dots and lines. Takže já jenom vlastně to dělám tak, že dělám čárky a tečky, which is super easy. Then, okay, I'll show it to you from here. That is super easy. I have prepared some of those to really show you how nicely the paste holds the shape and how nicely you can go and decorate your cookies.
Petra, is there any way to bring the camera closer? Your technique was what blew me away. Yeah, so she says dots and lines, but the designs are so lovely.
Yeah, so I have quite a few of those here. You can see another one. Oh, by the way, my favorites are always stars, are Christmas trees. I also have started to do like little bells. And one last thing that I started to do the Christmas, no Christmas, but I did stars with a hole in them, and you can use them, which are really beautiful on the table. You can put the tea lights in there, and it's like a like candle holder. And it's absolute beautiful and very elegant decoration when you put it on your table, on a white cloth or whatever you are having, or even like kind of placemats. Sometimes you can put a little bit of a little like card in there if you have more people and put the placemats there. People always like to come and then take them away as their keepsaking, you know, like when they are coming for dinner with us, and then they have a little bit of a little paper and then a little cookie that they really keep as a memorial. So komu to teďka předávám? Who is the next?
Moment, Petro. Jedna otázka. Clarifying question from the step before. Does the milk egg glaze go on before baking or after?
Immediately after, as soon as you take it out of the oven, when it's still hot, immediately, you know, brush it in. Sometimes it has a little bit of a bubbles, but don't worry about it because it will just, you know, it will fade away and will make this really beautiful glaze.
Very nice. I encourage you all, as you're watching, to watch Petra on the camera now as she decorates. We will come back to her. Her technique is phenomenal. She really, she is modest and underplays the dots and lines, but her creations are so stunning. Děkujeme, Petro. We are returning to Jana Výchová.
Okay.
Jana, we can't hear. Okay.
We have to wait a little bit because it is still, I don't know, 20 minutes. Because I put the dough in the refrigerator, so maybe we can wait 10 minutes. If this
Sure. You need 10 more minutes, no problem.
We can just, what I want to say, we can prepare chopping board, knife, plate, and some bowl, powdered sugar, and vanilla sugar.
Okay, those are all things we'll need in the next steps with you. Very good. Mileno, can we return to you at this point for the vánočka braiding? Excellent.
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna turn that off so you can hear me. So I just took the dough, which I made earlier this morning, out of the microwave. And you can see, I will show you actually the one we just finished. So you can compare how much it has risen. So this is the new one we just finished. So that one definitely need a lot of rising. So I'm gonna cover it up, put it back in there. I'm gonna make that one later. And this one is nice and puffy. And it beautiful, you know, you can see that it does not stick to your hands at all. So we're gonna take it out of the bowl. And now just turn it over a couple times. And the traditional Czech vánočka is braided out of 9 braids, 9 strands. Thank you.
Strands.
9 strands. And as everything in Czech folklore, everything represents everything. The vánočka originally represented the fertility, and also the shape of the vánočka reminded us of Ježíšek v zavinovačce, or a baby Jesus all wrapped up in blankets. And the reason for the 9 braids, which 4 go for the bottom layer, and the 4 represent fire, water, air, and earth. That's the bottom 4. So I'm gonna cut the dough into smaller pieces. I'm gonna do only 8 because then the last one I'm gonna split in half, because for the top you don't really need that thick of a braid. Then the middle 3 represent, česky reprezentují cit, vůli a rozum. Já jsem dlouho přemýšlela, jak to přeložit do angličtiny, a přišla jsem na to, že asi nejlepší bude wisdom, feelings and willpower. Take it or leave it. So we're gonna roll the strands. And yeast dough has the character that it wants to shrink. You know, when you roll it and it wants to shrink. So you let it rest a little bit, and then it will allow you to roll it some more. So we're just gonna roll them a little bit at a time. And the meaning for the last 2 are knowledge and love, neboli vědění a láska. A vánočka jako taková se traduje strašně dlouho. První záznamy o ní jsou ze 14. století. Yeah, the first records of vánočka are from the 14th century, when only professional bakers could bake it. But later on, from about 18th century, people started baking it at home and making, you know, homemade vánočka. And as I said, it represents fertility and success. So it was always the men of the house who would make the first cut, and animals, every animal which the family would have would get a piece, and it was given as gifts to other people who visited you for the holidays. Here we go. So we're now I'm going back to the strands I already rolled, and you can see that they're getting longer and longer, because as the dough relaxes, it will allow you to make a longer strand.
And ideally, how long do we want these strands to be?
So they would fit in your baking pan.
So it's baking pan specific. I get it.
Yeah. Actually, this dough, the amount would give you 2 small vánočka or 1 big one. I prefer 1 big one because then it has smaller surface to dry out. But if you're giving it as gifts, then this amount would allow you to make 2 smaller ones. Okay, so now we're pretty, so I will pick the thickest one, which I think is this one. I'm gonna save this one for the top because that one's gonna be split into 2. And we're gonna go into the braiding part. So Tess, if you can stand behind my shoulder. So you line the 4 strands next to each other. Okay. This one a bit more. Okay. And we are going to start in the middle. We're going to cross the middle 2 right over left. Now we're going to go from the sides, left over right, and left over right. Did I get it right? Yeah. So now we have 2 in the middle, and the middle ones always go right over left. And you want to leave some space in the middle. You do not want to do it too tight because you need to leave room for expansion. As the dough will rise, you need to leave room for expansion. So again, so we did right over left for the middle ones. And now we go left over right, left over right. We're returning back to the middle ones, and middle ones are right over left. And again, we go left over right on the side and left over right on the side. Take the middle, right over left, and left over right, and left over right. We're pretty much at the end, so we pinch it together. And I'm gonna turn it around and finish the other side. Side goes left over right, left over right. The middle, right over left. Sides go left over right, left over right, and right over left in the middle. And we have the bottom layer braided. We're gonna set it down on our cookie sheet. And you can see that there are some, you can see I like to use the sill pads because it keeps your cookie sheets cleaner. But if you don't have one, you can just oil or butter your pan, and it can sit directly on the pan. So now you have the bottom layer there. You're gonna take the edge of your palm and make a postýlka for your goodies. And this is,
What's a postýlka?
Postýlka is like a little bed. Right. Thank you. And this is what I was talking earlier about your raisins and your walnuts. Because sometimes when you put the raisins and walnuts in the dough, they would poke on the sides. And because their sugar content is higher than your dough, it would totally burn because the sugar caramelizes faster and then it's bitter. So we do this, you have made the little bed, and then I'm gonna put my raisins. I actually use craisins because they're not as sweet, they're a little tartar, which we prefer. So you're just gonna put them in the little indentation we made. And it depends. If you don't like it, don't put them in there. If you like a lot, put there a lot. And you can, don't be afraid to squish it. The dough is very forgiving and it will jump back. And now we're gonna put some walnuts in there. And again, I like a lot of walnuts, so I'm gonna put a lot of walnuts.
And can you use any kind of nuts? I mean, is this just a personal preference?
Whatever you like. You know, some people like kandované ovoce, which is like candied fruit, like you would use for a fruit cake. You can use almonds, you can use trail mix. Actually, now I'm thinking it might be kind of good to put lentilky in there or M&Ms, just thinking. Okay, so now we have the bottom layer done and we're gonna roll the middle. So this one was fire, water, air, and earth. Oheň, voda, země a vzduch. A teď uděláme ten prostředek. And the middle is feelings, willpower, and wisdom. Cit, vůle. A ten třetí rozum. A tohle pleteme jako normální cop. I think everybody braided somebody's hair, just a typical 3-strand. You always put the side one in between the other two. So you go in the middle and in the middle. And side goes in the middle, 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 and pinch it all together. We're gonna flip it. And now, because I just realized it's backwards, so you're gonna go in the middle from under because we flipped it around. But you can see which way it needs to go. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Okay.
And again, you're not making it super tight, it looks like. There's some looseness in there.
Yeah, you can still kind of, pull it apart. And you now put your middle over the nuts and the raisins. And it pretty much covers them. If they're poking out, you can just stick your finger into the nut and push it in there. So they would not be sticking out, as I mentioned earlier, so they would not burn. So now you have the middle in there. And again, you take the edge of your palm and push it down to make room for more goodies. So we're gonna put more goodies in there. Tak. A oříšky. And again, don't be afraid to squish it. It can take it. Okay, and now we'll do our last. And I'm gonna cut it in half. And this one you want to have a little longer than your whole vánočka, because that one's going to hold it together. And you just twist them together, and you will lay it on top, and you will take the ends and tuck them underneath. And again, just squeeze it good so it would hold together. And pěkně pod tu prdelku je zmáčknout, aby se udělala hezká prdelka. You want to cover again all your goodies. Again, if they're poking out, just push them in. And it's now braided. We're gonna let it rise probably for, again, depending how your kitchen is warm, but you do not want to speed rise this one. And the reason being is you want that it rise uniformly, because if it was sped like we did in the microwave, then the top layers would rise quicker than the insides, and then when you would put it in the oven, the middle would try to catch up with the already risen sides, and it might collapse and srazit se. Já nevím to správný anglický slovo, když se zdrcne vánočka. Takže you just want to leave it on the counter. I would cover it with a tea towel, And before we bake it, I take an egg, I take a whole egg and put a little bit of milk, mix it up, and just then baste it. But before it goes to the oven, I wouldn't do it right now because you want it kind of stretch and rise. So we will save this one for the baking time. And that's all from me for now.
That's all. You make it look so easy. An 8-stranded crazy braiding technique. One of our bakers suggested that YouTube also, we're going to have this recording available to you all, but YouTube also has videos where you can watch these very advanced, in my opinion, techniques. Thank you very much, Mileno.
Actually, some of them show, the problem with this one is that sometimes as it rises, it can, not look so perfect at the end. You can put toothpicks through the top down to hold it in shape, or some people braid it from 6 or 8 or 9 all at once, and that prevents it from moving. But this one is my favorite technique.
And I think that answered the question. Do you secure the braids in any way?
I'll show you. You could. You don't have to. You don't have to, because it's pretty wide on the bottom. But if you are worried, if you really want a beautiful vánočka, you take a toothpick and just push it through from the top down on 3 spots, middle and then at the ends. So you could do that. But it will taste the same regardless.
Wonderful. Thank you. We're going to check in very quickly with Petra and look at some of her designs. Petra, I've got to know, where did you learn to do this, or where do you draw your inspiration?
All right, so let me add me for a second. Well, you know what, this is really, I think that everybody, and I don't think not only in Czech, but even in here, do the gingerbread cookies for Christmas, right? So it was always in my family, my grandmother, my mother, so we always did it. It was this kind of bonding time. I always loved that. And till today, you saw maybe my daughter was here, she shows up and then loses the interest, but there was always part of preparing for Christmas. The technique that I am using, I kind of copied from my dear friend from the university back in Liberec in Czech Republic. Her designs were so delicate, and I tried to really copy it with mixed successes for years. And then I just kind of simplified. She had very elaborate designs. I think she even was on Sama Doma or something like that. And I just started to do those kind of dots and lines that really work for me the best. What I wanted to say, whoever wants to try to do that, when you do the piping, what is important is that you do not touch the surface of the cookie. You kind of, I don't know if you can see it, and I will try to show it and capture it on the camera. When you do the lines, I basically do not touch the surface. I kind of drag it, if you see. So it makes it really nice and smooth and kind of, you have to try it a few times, to see how much pressure you need to apply to that cookie or to the pipe to really make the consistent flow. But it's just, you don't touch the surface, just kind of, rub it along, then let it dry for a second, and then you just do your dotting. What I like about this also, just to be, not only that I can do it with the kids, that the kitchen always smells really wonderful. It's also something at the end of my day when I just this is something you can do when you have a time, or when I watch movies in the evenings, and it just kind of calms me down, especially before the Christmas time. Everybody's stressed, trying to, do everything at the same time. So for me, this is kind of really very relaxing when I kind of need to and have to slow down. You cannot rush that. You cannot rush baking in general, but when you want this and when you see this, forming, and you cannot screw this up, because you can always come back to some designs, and some of those that really end up to be the most beautiful ones are the ones when I saw, oh my gosh, this is looking so horrible. And then I come back to that cookie and I add few dots and it looks amazing. So do not ever get discouraged. That's what I keep telling to my kids when they say, you are so great and mine are not. It's like, no, that's not true. You know, never give up and it will just turn out. Just keep going.
Somebody is comparing your designs to eggs that they were given by relatives when they visited Czechoslovakia in 1977. I think they're kind of maybe suggesting that it looks like lace or something, or it's yeah, I don't know if you have a thought about that.
Yeah, it is kind of, they call it a lace design. It's like a paličkování. It's very much like that. I don't know how you can say paličkování in English, but yes, that is kind of lace design. And what I started to do sometimes too, it's like I started to put it like additional one layer, like here, I don't know if you can see it. You know, I can make the glaze a little bit, you know, not that thick. And I do the base and then I put a little bit of like additional layers on it. And that looks really like lace.
Now, as you're holding the icing, does your hand warm it up? Does that change sort of the consistency of it? No, so you can go ahead.
No, not really. Not really, because it's just always the room temperature. So, and I don't have any butter. So it's really just egg white and lemon juice. So, and that doesn't make that big of a difference.
Thank you, Petra. We're going to continue watching you while we return back to Jana, who's taking her dough out of the fridge. Go ahead, Jana.
Okay, how you can see, we have few pieces, so I just take out 2 pieces because if the dough is so melted, it is not good for the cutting. Takže vzala jsem si to světlé těsto a budu to krájet. Ruličky jsou kolem 2 cm. The rolls are about 1 inch, maybe less than 1 inch. And I will cut them really small. Do you see, it was not in, it's better to, I will use different knife with the, I don't know, s těma zobkama.
With the teeth, yeah, a toothed knife is better.
Yeah.
And Jana, how long was it in the refrigerator? Ideally, 20 minutes?
It was maybe 1 hour, but it's better if you will keep it there a little bit longer. And you asked me why we have to soak the nuts. And right now you can see that when the dough is so soft, you really need to be patient to cut the dough. So if the nuts are not soaked, you cannot cut them. You cannot cut them. Jestli ty božičky si prostě nenamočíte, tak se to čím dál tím hůř řeže. Já jsem udělala chybu, já jsem totiž takhle, řeknu to česky, já jsem chtěla ty walnuts, ty oříšky oloupat, to se mi nepovedlo a takhle, loupat vlašské oříšky můžete, doporučuji to dát do horké trouby, ale mně se ty oříšky mně prostě nešly ty oříšky sloupnout a začaly se mi pálit. A to těsto potom začíná jakoby trošku mít chuť jížky, připálené mouky. Tak jsem to přestala dělat a začala jsem používat teda oříšky, ty walnuts s tou slupkou. A vidíte to, čím jako je to měkčí, tím hůř se to krájí. What I want to say, that I preheated the oven. We need the oven for 400 Fahrenheit. Česky je to kolem 200 stupňů Celsia. A ještě, co jsem chtěla taky říct, že je dobré, když máte 2 druhy těsta, jedno světlé a jedno tmavé, tak protože mám trošku problémy s očima, tak používám, když peču tmavé těsto, tak používám vždycky jedno kolečko světlého těsta, protože to mi ukáže, jestli to tmavé těsto už je pečené nebo ne, protože vidíte, že je do zlatova opečené, jak říkáme česky.
So I can translate very quickly. Jana kind of test bakes one of the lighter cookies, and that gives her a good sense of when the cookie turns golden brown, she knows that they're ready. So that way she can then accurately bake the darker cookies, you know, based on the amount of time the lighter ones required. So that's a nice little trick there. Jana, what is the red thing that you are putting the cookies on? It looks like a cookie sheet, but there's more to it.
It is silicone cookie sheet. I saw that Milena used this too, or you can use parchment paper. Or if you don't want to use anything, you just spray a little bit the plech, já nevím, jak se to řekne.
You can spray the cookie sheet. Yeah.
Cookie sheet, yeah.
Milena, our vánočka baker, is saying that you can put pecans also in the Masaryk cookies, and they don't need soaking and are easier to cut. And somebody was asking the temperature of the oven. Jano, can you say it again?
It is around 400 Fahrenheit, degrees of Fahrenheit. Do you see, this is the first pieces which I put in the refrigerator, and you can see that I can cut it a little bit better. So I would recommend it to keep the dough for over the night in the freezer, in the refrigerator. And I think the taste of the dough will be better. How I said, I prepare it, but it's already. Já jsem si to přichystala včera večer a přišla návštěva, tak jsem to upekla a snědlo se to. Takže dneska mám. Tak. Do you see? It's done. Few pieces dark, few pieces white, and we will cook them. We will bake them for 10 minutes. It's dependent of your oven. So I know that I will bake them around 12 minutes. Between 12 and 30 minutes.
Great. And for those of you who've got the questions about the temperatures and all, those are in the recipe guide that we shared and we'll reshare again after this session, but keep the questions coming. I think at this, Jano, can we move away from you at this point?
Absolutely. So, yes, absolutely.
Okay, shall we check in with Petra to see more designs, or Jano, help me out on the timeline here. Should we open it up for Q&A? Jano, Braniso.
I think we need to go to Milena. I think we need to go to Milena for the final vánočka, I think, and then we're going to come back to either that or we can do Q&A now, and then we'll do a closing shot of all the 3 finished products. Why don't we do Q&A now? And because I think Milena has a finished vánočka to share, but we'll do that at the end. All 3 of us, all 3 of our bakers will show. We'll check in with them. Why don't we do a Q&A really quickly with everyone right now, a live Q&A.
Yeah, and Petro, there is a question for you about how to store the icing once you've made it. So I'll ask the question. Jano, correct me if I'm wrong. We'll open it up to Q&A where folks can raise their hands. And again, at this point, we'll stop the recording. Is that right? So that they won't.
Yeah, I'm going to pause the recording right now. Yes.
So Petro, first question goes to you about how to store the icing.
Well, I don't usually store it because, you know, that icing, when I do it, so it's like 1 or 2 days. So one of those, this one I have done yesterday, and I just had it here. It just doesn't go bad. So 1 or 2 days, it's fine. Other than that, I would maybe just put it in the refrigerator. But as it is a Ziploc, you know, that usually doesn't dry out, and then only dries out the tip. But then if you just gently squeeze it, it will always just opens up again. Or you can just reuse another bag if they get damaged, and you can just transfer the paste from one side from one bag to the other one.
Fantastic. I have another really great question for Milena. What is your address? Because we would all like to come over and sample some of that vánočka. Hope you don't mind sharing.
It's in Danville. It's in Danville.
We'll just follow our noses. How about that?
That's a good way. I'm all for that.
Do other folks have questions? You can raise hands and speak up or chat. And whoever caught that we did not include the recipe, the Masaryk cookie recipes, you're absolutely right. We wanted to keep you in suspense, but we will send that out after this presentation. Are there these are great bakers we have before us. Other questions about any technique, any tips that you'd like to hear about? Okay, so if we could repeat whether or not the egg wash is going on the gingerbread before baking, Petro.
Ne, až potom, jo? Takže upéct perníčky, hned jak je, a já si udělám vlastně vajíčko, si rozškvedlám. Well, I'm now mixing up Czech and English. I'm completely confused. So what I do is I mix up an egg and I put just a splash of a little bit of milk in there. And I brush it on the cookies as soon as they get out of the oven when they are baked. So not before, after.
And they can be warm. It can be done onto warm gingerbread cookies.
It needs to be done on warm. As soon as you get it out, while it is still warm, when it's still hot, just don't touch the plech. Don't touch the baking tray. So make sure that you stay away from that, and then just really gently brush it over the gingerbread cookies while they are still warm, because it also absorbs it a little bit in the surface. And also it dries out, or it dries off really quickly because the cookie is still wet, still hot.
Got it. And I have a question. Somebody else has the same question. We used our family, and somebody else used the gingerbread recipe you recommended. My dough also came out very dry. What would you suggest?
Well, maybe what I should have said is the dough is very dry. And what I realized, and I didn't put it in the recipe, my apologies, is the flour here in US, it really takes much more moisture for whatever reason than the flour in Czech Republic. So what I had to do is I put additional, either I use less flour, or I use more butter and rum. So either way, it's also good thing is, just have the flour on the side and just keep adding it. So don't use all of it. So maybe use or stay, keep aside a little bit of a flour that was in the original recipe, and then based on the consistency, it needs to be smooth. It doesn't have, it should not be rolling off in the crumbs. So it should not be dissolving. So it should be really nice, smooth dough. And then when you are there, you just stop adding the flour. And I don't know if it was in the recipe, but what I also do when I do the butter, and I melt it. I melt the butter before I add it in, because otherwise it's really hard.
Fantastic. And somebody else is giving a tip that they used organic flour and using your recipe, and that everything turned out fine.
Yeah.
Also, your mom says hi.
Yeah, the flours really are different, and it makes difference.
Well, and so that's another question here. What type of flour is best? In the Czech Republic, we all know that they have all the different kinds, hruba, polohruba, etc. I don't know if does it depend on the recipe here, Mileno? For certain things, you would use different flours. What?
For the yeast dough is very forgiving, and that's what I like the best. So you can make everything from regular all-purpose flour. Even knedlíky you can make from all-purpose flour. And when it has baking powder, then all those recipes, I adopted American recipes because it was too difficult, because then you need polohruba, sometimes hruba mouka for those. If anybody has tips how to use all-purpose flour, how, what the ratio should be so it would turn out, I would gladly, find out. But for the yeast dough, regular all-purpose flour, I actually buy my at Costco, there are two 10-pound organic bags, and it's a fantastic flour, and I use it for everything.
Wonderful. Petro, can you remind the bakers what tools you used to mix the icing? Was it a fork, a spoon? Does it matter?
Kurník, a teď si nespomínám, jak se to řekne česky.
Metlička.
Metlička, česky, ne, metlička, anglicky, tak metličku bych si vzpomněla, anglicky mi to nebude dělat problém. I say bring the whisker, and then everybody laugh at me. It's not the whisker. So what is it?
It's called a wire whip.
Okay, there you go.
That's cute.
There you go. Metlička, wire whip.
Sure.
Jana, somebody is asking if it is best to take the skins off the hazelnuts. And I think you talked about it a little bit, but could you clarify, should we take the skins off? Jano, can you hear us? Or we can't hear you?
Yeah. So before I use macaroni nuts. I don't know if you can see it. So all the cookie is white. Right now it's a little bit hot, and I think if you can see, it is a little bit nicer because you can see the brown circle around the nuts. So I did not clean them, nebo já je nestýkám z té kůže, jak jsem to říkala, já jsem co ti doporučuje internet, dát je na 200 stupňů Celsia na 5 až 10 minut do trouby a vlastně pak je zkusit jakoby oloupat, ale mně přišlo, že ty ořechy začaly být hrozně jako už spálené a to cukroví, když jsem to použila, tak jakoby je cítit spálení, tak já to radši nepoužívám.
So Jana basically said that she had tried baking them about 200 degrees, 10 minutes?
Yes, 5 or 10 minutes.
And that way they get warm and the skin, you could sort of roll it off. But she said that the nuts got too much of a burnt taste, so that maybe that isn't the way to go. So I suppose the short answer is no.
I would say no, yes.
Yeah.
I would say.
Milano, is your recipe, so the question is, if these recipes are from specific Czech regions,